Okay. Yeah, yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're ready to begin. Yep, 4 o'clock. I've never chaired a meeting before in my life, so bear with me. Jen is my co-pilot. She's really the pilot, I'm the co-pilot. Number 1 on the agenda tonight is the Town of New Shoreham, Plat 10, Lot 2, Fire number 6 on Payne Road. A decision on an application by the Block Island Health Services, Inc. for development plan review for an addition to the medical center. The lot is located in the medical zone. I would like to make a motion to approve the development plan review. Application by Block Island Health Services for an addition to the medical center, refer to engineering plans by Principe Company, Inc., dated 12/15/2022, and architectural plans by RGI Architecture dated 12/1/2022. The proposed uses related to this application before the planning board are all permitted uses by right under section 322. The proposal is to expand and upgrade the Block Island Medical Center, including the construction of a new accessory residential building to house 5 staff members, a redesigned parking area with a total of 28 spaces being provided, removal of existing utility building and construction of a new smaller utility building, installation of a new exterior emergency generator, and other landscaping and exterior lighting improvements. The project includes the physical expansion and extensive renovation of the office and clinical functions of the existing medical center building. The project also involves exterior improvements to the facade, whatever, how you pronounce it, and landscaping for the Davidson House. The planning board finds all dimensional standards of the zoning district are met and all applicable standards of section 501 development plan review standards of the zoning ordinance have been met in approving this site development plan with conditions. The conditions are the development will not cause unreasonable traffic congestion or unsafe conditions and complies with the town standards for parking and access. The planning board has agreed to not require more than the proposed 10-foot paved apron at the site entrance. The development will provide for and maintain convenient and safe emergency vehicle access to all buildings and structures at all times. The applicant is working with the rescue squad to ensure the emergency vehicles can conveniently access the site. And to facilitate this, the applicant is proposing relocation of stone walls. The locations, design, and construction of the building, driveways, surface water drainage systems, and their intended use are suitable to the soils of the property. The development will provide for adequate disposal of sewage, refuse, and other wastes. The development will be serviced by municipal sanitary sewer and municipal water. The applicant received approval from the water company for water allocation during its February 2023 meeting. The development will not have an adverse impact on areas of critical environmental importance, such as habitats or species listed as endangered, threatened, or of special concern by the Rhode Island National Heritage Program. The plan considers and protects against any degradation of surface or groundwater quality through stormwater management and soil erosion and sedimentation control measures. Proper soil erosion and sedimentation control measures as prescribed in the town's soil erosion and sediment control ordinance will be employed. The infiltration plans to manage stormwater have been reviewed and approved by the town engineer. The planning board also finds the development project is consistent with the 2016 New Shoreham Comprehensive Plan, specifically housing needs identified on page 913. There still remains a long-term need to provide additional housing for medical center staff. The project supports the following policies listed within the comprehensive plan. SF1B, proactively plan for the long-term use and maintenance of all town-owned buildings and properties. C, support community health needs, including mental health. E, make health and safety of residents and visitors of the highest priority. And F, ensure municipal staffing needs are not compromised by lack of attainable housing. The planning board recommends cohesive design and materials, i.e. windows, for the buildings. The applicant's architect stated this would be achieved during the public hearing. I made this motion. Oh. No.
I didn't do.
I make this motion to approve with the following conditions. Guilty. Detailed utility plans for sewer and water connections to the new facilities must be submitted and approved by the town engineer prior to a building permit being issued. The sewer allocation for the proposed residence hall must be obtained before a building permit is issued, and a letter for the file from local emergency official confirming they will have convenient access to the site by rescue vehicles prior to a building permit being issued. I'll ask for a second to that motion. Second. Any discussion at the table? No. All in favor?
Was anyone not, did anyone miss the meeting, that hearing for the medical center that cannot vote? Did you?
Last meeting.
Yep, okay, everybody else is speaking.
Okay. Motion is passed. The second item on the agenda, I think we're,
We've done this travel back to the island, so I said we could, put that to the agenda, so he would be able to attend it.
sure,
2 and 3, right?
Yes. This 2 and 3, yes.
okay.
Hopefully Tom will be able to join us, but we can have the other applications go first so that he has time to make it to the meeting. Charlene's also here though. Charlene, would you like to wait for Tom? Is that okay? Okay, all right, because Charlene can also, answer some questions, but.
So if everyone's
All right,
here
we'll
for
wait for
number
Tom.
4, the Rose Farm Inn, we could proceed with Rose Farm Inn.
Joe, before you start, can you just make sure the green light's on? Thank you.
Judith, as you know, is getting older, and it's difficult for her. She apologizes. Jamie is here. This is the road farming consists of 5 existing lots. You've got the Rose Farm Inn, which is in the RC umbrella. Lot number 98, which is Judith's house. 2 undeveloped lots on the east side of the property, 257 and 251. A large lot, 252, which is mostly undeveloped in the rear, but also contains an existing building which has the bicycle shop, the apartment, and a lot of the infrastructure. So the proposal that we explained to you earlier, last time we were here, calls for a zone change to combine the 2 lots with the Rose Farm Inn with the building behind it. They've got all a single commercial area. And then the large lot 262 gets somewhat shrunk in the large lot. It has an existing public well that serves the inn, and as long as that well serves the inn, it will have to be undeveloped because the area is clean. There are easements for the property where water could be brought, as you know, water, but there's no immediate plans, although the Rose family was on the list for the water company, if there were water. We're not making development, there are no plans for it, it will have to be developed. Yeah. Then we're creating 2 house lots on the east side, and the Judith's house lot is a second house lot down there. They all conform to that. For access, when access to the easement over the paved driveway that runs by the Mannequin, which has been filed with you since the last hearing, we filed the land records. But the access to this house, we're going to come from this right away out Springs, out behind the Spring House. We made it so that that lot, that right away stops, because we don't want to create a highway that runs through the entire lot. We don't want people to be able to ride through it. That right away will serve only the lot with these houses. The other right away will serve from the Atlantic will serve the main lots. I apologize that Jim Calderon, our surveyor, couldn't make it this evening. He had a previous long scheduled vacation, and we didn't want to hold up going forward with the pending for a long time. Further important to do is her. She's trying to get her affairs in order to make that the popular.
Yeah.
You stuck with me if you have questions.
So basically, Joe, the inn's on 260 and barn, et cetera, is on 262.
And we're going to expand that and combine those.
I guess I don't have a drawing of what you want to do, but I'm assuming you want to come off 98, the existing line, just spread it across the 261.
Actually, it should be on your record opinion of the proposed conditions plan. South County survey.
I'm looking at it.
And that does show a boundary line of the proposed panel.
Yep, got it.
So it's not exactly as far down as you thought.
Right.
Then on the left, there's an existing interior stone wall.
Yep.
And our proposal was to basically relocate that stone wall to the boundary of the lot, what we remain really the boundary. And how do you do that? The over came to the site, the soil analysis on file shows that the soils are all correct. The problem familiar with the road, as it comes time to construct roads, it's built in the same fashion as the Fort Dodge. Road family moving that they all.
Anyone else at the table have questions? Mary? No. Claire?
We do have one, correspondence that came in today from an abutter, so I emailed it to everyone kind of late, so,
Sure. This is from Connie Honan. I'm unable to travel to the island for the meeting this afternoon, but wanted to share my response as requested in the letter I received last week concerning the major subdivision proposed on the Rose property. She states, I would never object to the sale of land the Rose family found necessary to sell, as we have been lifelong friends. I would, of course, be sad, however, if the open land we've so enjoyed viewing from our home for the last half century was significantly developed. I'm hoping the island planning and zoning already has suggested parameters for number of buildings, height and location of buildings, and development plans that are mindful of the views and impact on surrounding properties, especially by any tall or imposing structures. I'm sure I'm not saying anything that all involved don't already appreciate. The view of that majestic Rose Farm Hill and the ocean beyond is one of my and my late husband's favorites. I wish very much for it to be preserved from widespread development. So we can just assure Connie that you're going through all the proper motions.
One of the house on the lot next to the is going to be set down a lot. The other two lots that are probably built, would be ultimately developed single family housing by the family. There are no plans whatsoever to build them now, and there are no plans to build for celebrate purposes.
Okay, I had a couple of questions. The lot size, Allison gave us a notation about one of the lots, lot 98 being 58,000 plus square feet versus 60.
Our records show that
So my question, so the total lot area seemed to meet the standards, but when you deduct wetlands
I
from,
think we should probably relocate that line and make them both have 60.
okay, so that,
They both need 60.
right, so the surveyor could answer that, but Yeah, adjusting the lot line so that you have the developable land area of a minimum of 60,000.
We can do that.
Okay,
Okay.
no, that's
Okay. And then you had mentioned the right of way. That has all been determined to be the proper width and
Yeah,
grade and what have you?
paved area and it's over 30 feet wide, front, when you get to the property, then the property.
Okay, so that, I meant to look at the map over the Atlantic, that's all.
That's
And
not
you-
shown,
You
yeah.
don't have a map on that. It is in the property.
Okay.
So that easement was recently executed?
Yeah.
I remember when last time you were, it was still, yes, okay, so that's been submitted,
That's been submitted and
Okay.
submitted to the court.
okay.
Okay,
And then in regards to the roadways, like, so you have a proposed hammerhead turnaround construction of that? I mean, are there gonna be waivers from road stand construction, or are you going to upgrade the access ways?
We're talking that over.
Okay.
We will address that fully when it comes to preliminary. The thought is to build the road to standards, so that we will provide access to the hammerhead frontage and leave the gravel drive from Spring Street to what is now proposed Lot A, in the condition it's in and serving only Lot A. That prevents, there's no highway that runs through the property, so you can't drive from High Street out to Spring Street.
and do we need to see the recorded access for lot 98 from Spring Street that you had mentioned, or no?
That's a historically long used, it's pertinent in the deed of the lot. I can file the deed that shows that.
Okay,
You're not gonna see a real, you're gonna see, together with a right of way of Spring Street over the road now.
okay, well, that,
Yeah, I think we should
Is-
go that.
and then lastly, for me anyway, the zone change, isn't there a zone change happening in,
We're gonna have to, we've not done that. This whole project is contingent on a zone change. You grant master approval, we assume you'll grant it subject to zone change. And we've been waiting, and then at that point, we'll begin the zone, we'll be coming before you with zone change petition, refer from the council, and we'll do that
Okay.
before we come back.
okay.
So
Terrific.
you'll see this for preliminary at another public hearing and then, fine. But preliminary is really where you're making your.
So,
Okay,
one question on, so lot A, the frontage for lot A. That's the one that's gonna be accessed from,
I guess what we'll do, what we probably should do is show a hammerhead there as well, on that, front.
yeah, it's not really, it doesn't show access or frontage for that, the gravel drive here, that goes through.
Probably show a hammerhead there, or extend it long enough to the 20 feet front.
Yeah, you need to show the front. I don't think it's 200 feet though.
So it's 150.
One- 150.
It's 150.
Yep.
Yeah.
any other observations from the table? No. We'd like to invite the public to speak. Anyone have any comments, questions?
And just to use the microphone.
Oh, yeah, and if you do, yeah, please step up to the microphone. Okay,
I have, one comment. If you could meet with, the tax assessor's office and, eliminate this ABC, not like,
Basically, get the lot number,
Yeah.
the issue on.
yeah, so that it doesn't end up getting recorded with inaccurate, identification of lots.
Yes, we will.
so I need assistance from my co-pilot here on whether we close the public hearing or we have to have these items addressed before so.
I think that you should make sure they have frontage for
Revised-
lot A
submit a
and
revised
the
plan.
hammerhead, and submit the revised plans.
They're pretty significant, those, like, we need confirming. You don't know what the road design is that you're approving.
So that would ultimately be worked out in preliminary. We have to bring that roadway up to standard.
But they're gonna approve something, you're gonna take it to the council for a zone change on something you don't even know if it complies with zoning ordinance.
The lot, the lot lines are changing, the road
Yeah.
configuration is changing. That's basically for a master plan, that's what you're finalizing,
you're
so
done with.
So we could want to continue up to next month and we'll get that too.
It sounds like
submit a
best idea.
revised site plan that addresses the questions and concerns that were raised today.
Specifically to the access, easement, the road construction, the frontage.
Yeah,
zoning
the
change.
lots
lot
have to
li- the
meet
lot
the
size.
minimum. I would also,
A lot size.
Joe, if you could have the surveyor list the lot size and then what he's deducting from the lot area, so the developable land area. There's a table. It's shown on the plan, but like a table showing,
Maybe on like a separate sheet.
Table on each lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
just a table showing what's being deducted.
And like the calculations for the wetlands that are.
But knowing how surveyors work, I think that we're gonna have to continue this, I'd rather have to continue.
Okay, let me just
Okay.
check the date. May 10th. So you would, whenever you're finished, you just make them.
I've done approval, sure that.
Everyone good? All right, well, I'd like to make a motion to continue this particular item to the May 10th meeting. Sure, thank you very much. Oh, yes, thank you.
Continue, and then
Sasha
vote.
second.
Okay, so Sasha seconded and then, all in favor.
Oh, all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
The reason for that is safety. Have lots of- I started the process of something.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to number 5 on the agenda, Fab 5 LLC. Plat 3, lot 86-1. Fire number 1181 Corneck Road.
Michael Minot, the applicant,
Thank you for coming.
I'm sorry, can you say your name?
Michael Minot. So the applicant submitted an application permit. And after that first, meeting, just to review the application for planning board, the applicant also submitted an application for development plan review. Since the applicant is seeking special use permit, for 4 different, calculations that are for the zoning ordinance, from the primary residence and also add 2 accessory structures. The applicant seeking a special use permit in regard to building footprint, living floor area, building volume.
Mhm.
So I'm prepared to answer questions about that development plan review application.
Okay. Do we contend with the waivers first, or? We first addressed the waivers requested. And it looks like number 4, a waiver for the statement from the zoning official that any variances, modifications, or special use permits necessary to develop the project as proposed have been secured and applied for.
I think that this one is just showing that they're requesting it, but you don't have.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll move on to waiver request for the economic impact report for developments likely to employ 10 or more persons, or analysis demonstrating relationship of the proposal to the goals and objectives contained in the economic development element of the New Shoreham Comprehensive Plan as most recently amended. Does anyone have any comments? The board have comments on that?
I got one comment. Has that ever been submitted?
No, this is for the special use permit. Let me get you the. So let me get you the, this one, sorry. That one is, for zoning, but this one is for, this is what you should know about right now. Sorry, it's a little confusing. So nothing on that page.
Nothing requested.
So, I mean, here it's technically requested, but you can just go over that one.
Well, number 10 is for a commercial structure, including parking, circulation plans, landscaping, but this is for commercial. This is not a commercial structure, correct? And then number 11, letters from the town building official and zoning official documenting the appropriateness of parking provisions and the compliance of the proposal and other applicable regulations. Is that necessary for this, for residential development? Or do we have them?
For, they're requesting them, so we just haven't,
We haven't gotten them yet.
but you will. So it's
Okay.
I also had a question on number 5 and 7. You indicated yes, I think they're really more NA would be what our response probably should have been on those. I don't know that either of those are applicable to this, the residential reconstruction project.
Correct. Your access hasn't changed for emergency access for number 4.
So it's not going to be any disturbance of soils or
Mhm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So number 4 should be a waiver request. You wanna just, initial that, number 4? That's a waiver, cause you're not doing anything.
Thank you. So then it's just the, number 5, the materials. Oh, you submitted those. So that was the only waiver request, correct?
You submitted drainage and. Pre-loading
Okay.
and all that, so then you're just, unless the board is missing any material that you would like to see, if they have no questions, you just make a motion to schedule it for, April 12th. Does that work for you? May 10th.
Yeah, the April date would be great.
Okay, April 12th. How would you want to schedule the public hearing?
So I would like to make a motion to schedule the public hearing for the Fab 5 LLC application, Lot 3, Lot 86-1 for the April 12th meeting.
And approve, just say, and approve the waivers.
And to approve the waivers that they have requested.
Yeah, can I ask one question quick? From what's submitted, is there anything that shows, I'm trying to find what exists, you said it's for you though. I have a lot of documents here, I have the building sections, I have the first, just so I can refer to it for the next meeting.
There's some photographs of the existing structure on there.
Yeah, you should have, that was in our package. We can get you with that.
I just want to make sure it's in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. All in favor of the motion? Seconded? Oh, wait.
It was
That was already seconded. Sorry. I'm starting to go into the final frontier here.
You're good.
Okay, good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's April 12th. We could open the door now.
Yeah, I think Jen just close it because it was noisy out there.
Jen, do you mind if I open the door? Oh, no, not at all. I just wasn't sure if they were gonna stay in the hallway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just make sure they move. There's a lot of,
Right.
Want to address the board. I wonder if the microphone on the podium is not turned on. I'm having a lot of trouble hearing.
Thank you for bringing that up. Is it off?
when Joe was speaking at the time.
No, I don't think so. I thought it was fun, but that was well, right.
Joe.
All right.
That happens to be true.
Well, I think we're ready to move on to number 6, or what's noted as number 6, the Goria Christopher J. Plat 19, Lot 37, fire number 919. We're combining that with number 7, same name, same plat and lot, same fire number.
Please make sure that microphone, if the green light is on the whole time.
It's nice and bright right now, and I won't
Thank
touch
you.
it.
Because the
Although,
solicitor needs to hear you.
although I will say, to do with, you really need a second microphone for
We're
presentation.
we're working on it.
Working on that, good.
So,
What I'll do is
We
I'll
could give you-
start here and then I'll hand it over to Magnus when it's.
okay, if not, we could maybe give you.
Joseph Priestley representing Christopher Gareyev. This is he owns an approximately 14-acre lot off of Coast Guard Road, the numerous rights of way that have been in existence since Deadeye Dick lived there in the 1950s and further on. You have a memorandum in your file which recites the title, history, and the access history. It was approved for a special use permit in 2004. And the construction began on the house by the water and was never completed. The inland house is where Deadeye Dick happened to live, and that's now essentially a foundation. So although we're not asking you to continue a special use permit, we're asking for a new special use permit for a secondary dwelling development. Not a lot has changed in the regulations since it was approved in 2004, but there is one significant factor. The zoning ordinance requires that the two dwellings shall be separated by not more than 50 feet unless the zoning board of review, and you can recommend to them, determines that the site circumstances require a wider separation in order to achieve a consistency with the design intention of the ordinance or for public safety purposes. Magnus Westergren, our architect this evening, will address why we think the proposed development is consistent with the design intentions of the ordinance. And he'll also address how it conforms to the recommendations of the Conservation Commission that have already been made in their advisory opinion. So without further ado, I'd like to call Magnus Westergren, the architect for the Gareyevs.
Good evening, everyone. So I just wanted to start off a little bit by just describing the sort of intent of the two houses before we get into the 50 feet apart. But just the site, as everyone knows, is potentially, I mean, it's an extremely beautiful site. It's a very hilly, natural, gorgeous site. And a little bit of the inspiration behind the project was this, really taking something from the Block Island character of the stone walls that separate the different lots, being a big character. And then, on the top right, you can see like an old structure where they're built directly on these stone walls. So that very Block Island concept of like the stones emerging from the landscape and things perching on top of them really underpin the entire design behind it. So the middle two pictures, those depict the house that's on the site of the existing bluff house or the seaward house. So you can see on the left side, that's this from the land side where because of the steep sloping terrain, you're seeing that it's 2 stories high. But from the water side, as you can see on the far right side in the middle, it's a single story home essentially, because it's kind of dug into that hillside where the existing house is. And then just on the left here, you can see just the garage wall poking out, because the garage also is intended to be dug into the hillside to sort of minimize its visibility and disturbance and everything. And then along with, as the zoning code dictates, the accessory dwelling is similar in design, but smaller in scale and more modest. So the guest house, which is bottom left image, it's very petite, very small, but it's in the same style of the existing house. So you have the kind of rough stone volume and then an all timber adjoining piece. The accessory building that is being requested is a barn. Mr. Goriev and his wife are avid, water users and bicycling and all those things. So it's just a storage barn, which I believe A130, we submitted the sheet to make it very clear that the barn is just for storing, gardening equipment, recreational equipment and such things. So I'm going to turn this around now and then we'll get into the 50 feet distance and why we think it's kind of essential to go more than 50 feet apart to minimize site disturbance and all those things. So as Joe mentioned, the existing seaward house, which you can see in the top left, it was never finished, but all the plumbing is in there, everything is there. The only thing that would have to be done is basically put up interior sheeting, and then it could be finished. But the house is not, even though it's a traditional style house, it doesn't meet the needs of the client. So that's why we're proposing to tear it down and replace it. The landward house, which is you can see the garage in the basement that's still there in the foundation. Which, and the reason we propose to build at the 2 existing locations, of course, is that there are septic fields that are approved and functioning for both properties. So, building somewhere else would require a completely new septic field, a lot of site disturbance to dig up, potential tree removal to fit it. So that's one of the big things, like there's existing septic fields next to the 2 existing properties. And you can see on the bottom here, this is just kind of an interesting topographical reading of the site. So even though it's a 15-acre site almost, as you can see in the bottom left, the different topography is pretty extreme. So the darker it is, the lower it is. So on the right-hand side, the only area that's shaded, that's the only remaining part of the site that you can actually build on because of the wetland setbacks, because of setbacks from neighbors. So given that very limited area, and I can't quite point to it, but behind the bluff on the right side, you can see it's extremely narrow and it's extremely steep going into the wetlands. So if we were to build the guest house within 50 feet of the seaward house, it would be on this extremely steep slope. It's very, very narrow and it would face straight into the wetlands. So it would be, very, very difficult, if not impossible, to do excavation or anything like that without not disturb the wetlands. And then to build on the landward side next to the existing house that's been demoed down to the foundation, you could fit 2 houses there, but you would still have to demolish the existing house at the bluff. So there would be, a lot of site disturbance at the bluff to remove that house, which there will be anyway, right? Both houses will be removed. So all that site disturbance would happen. So if 2 houses were built on the landward side, you would basically have 3 major areas of excavation and removals and soil removals and tree removals. So by building on the 2 existing houses that will be removed, it just saves a lot of, it minimizes site disturbance. It's essentially is the main point. And I believe we submitted view sheds and everything. So you've seen that the house that is being proposed is lower than the house that's there presently. And the landward house is similarly lower than the house that was there in the past. I believe in the last comment, there was also a question about the pool being an accessory structure. So we just wanted to clarify that the pool, you can see a little hand-drawn diagram in the middle. The pool it's just a pool with a permeable stone patio next to it. And that's essentially a landscape element, right? It will just have a stone foundation wall next to it.
Conservation Commission had some recommendations about trees and site. Can you roughly run through what they recommended to the board?
Yeah, I mean, it was just to minimize any removal of protected species. Actually, I'm speaking a little bit from Mark Butler, our landscape designer, because his daughter is doing a musical performance. So we thought we would let him attend that musical performance and I would fill in. And also because the landscape design really fits into the house design in that, the client really did not want to disturb the site, right? It's a beautiful site. It has a gorgeous local vegetation and trees. And his desire is to just make it look exactly like it does today, but just nestle these stone volumes into it. So that kind of underpins the house design and the landscape design along with it. So yeah, minimizing any tree removal, any protected species, that's a big part of it. I don't think we have to remove any trees with the design whatsoever, and we're going to keep it that way. And then similarly, I know in the landscape comments, there was about a non-native grass, but it actually wasn't ever proposed, and we would not propose any invasive species.
There were some trees that they wanted us to maintain.
Yeah, the black cedars, yeah.
Do we propose any change in the existing road serving the front?
All right, no. And as you know, because there are the two existing houses, right, the driveway road accessing both of them exists, and we would just do the exact same one. The only difference is that up to the bluff house, we're proposing a permeable sort of path where you could drive up to the house, but it would be a permeable path like with grass growing through it. So, but the road itself to access both houses would be just maintain the existing one.
Okay.
I have no further questions from Mr. Weston. If you have, could you briefly cite your credentials for the board?
Oh, yeah, I'm an architect practicing in New York City. I've been practicing for 12 and a half years now. And, it's very exciting to get to work on Block 9.
Note that we should make one change on C1000 C100. You change the reference to New York City building code to the Rhode Island state.
Yes,
That's
have it.
important.
Oh,
I forget who pointed that out to us.
Oh.
Just a little bit embarrassed.
I forgot one actually kind of interesting thing about the way that the houses are deployed on the site as well is that, this used to be 2 lots or possibly actually 3 lots, but there's an existing stone wall that runs through the site, basically halfway through it. So by building in the 2 existing houses, you're basically, it looks as if there's one house on one lot separated by stone wall and then another one, which I know in the comprehensive plan, this maintaining kind of houses and their relationships to the stone walls. It really kind of spoke to us this idea that you're going to have one house and that you have to pass through an existing stone wall to get to the guest house. And like just sort of fortuitously, there's about a 5-foot break in that existing stone wall that someone probably made to make a passage through it. So we thought it was kind of, pleasant to have that existing little opening in the stone wall that separates the 2 homes.
And just on that point, if you read through the memorandum regarding title, you'll refer back to the 1929 plan of Champlin Farm, and they were shown on that plan as the well lot and the garden lot. So it was 2 lots back then.
Okay.
I have a question regarding, how high is the existing house? How tall is it?
The existing house is, I think, 27 or 28 feet,
And then the proposed is
19, 11, or 20 feet. So
also going from 128 down.
Any other board members have questions? Sosha?
I have a number of questions,
Okay.
and they have been answered already. And one is a philosophical one. Okay, I'll start simple. What is the client planning to do with the material once they tear down the existing structure?
well, I've been told, which I thought was quite fascinating, that on Block Island, when you remove a house, you have to offer them building material to anyone on the island, essentially. So we would definitely plan on proceeding with that. Great
Let's
idea.
spare that. Do we, and this is really for Allison, do we need additional application material related to storm management and wetlands? Or are we set?
Stormwater, is that what you're saying? Did you have a plan for Is that on the site plan?
We have Ken Cole here this evening, who's
Okay.
our engineer, he will address those issues.
So the-
And it's also been run by Mr. Jeremiah, the town's engineer.
Oh, I'm just
Yeah.
my little checklist. Do we have all the necessary variances, modifications, or special use permits necessary to develop this project as proposed? The answer is yes, I see.
I guess speaking to that, and I brought this up months ago when this application first came before the board. The use of this secondary dwelling development, it's not something that's used, this section of the ordinance. We haven't seen, I haven't seen one in 8 years. So, I noticed the purpose of it is to provide additional housing opportunities for island families. And I guess wanted to get some information for the board from the applicant as to why this particular section is being used versus a subdivision, or why are you using this section of the ordinance and how does it meet the purpose of the zone, of that section?
Well, I think the purpose is the Gorebs have been residents of the island for many, many decades, and their children are sort of in their mid-20s, and they want to, give the ability for their kids to come to the island and, once they form their own families, to at least start off, on this site and be in proximity to them.
Which leads me right to my philosophical question. What is to stop a homeowner who has abandoned a 513 to simply apply for a renaming of that structure so that it could fall under secondary development?
Well, there's a ton of standards that most properties aren't going to meet because they actually need enough land to do a subdivision and to do a secondary dwelling development. That's why we don't see them.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this case, the Goryabs have, usually in the earlier cases, you would have found people using this section when they didn't have quite enough land to subdivide, because there was a slightly lower standard. The Goryabs basically have 460,000 square feet of developable land. They could subdivide into 3 lots. They don't want to. And they're hoping to keep that from happening, and this is the way they can do that.
Not only do they subdivide into 3 lots, but they can build something far larger than a true.
Yeah.
Being presented.
Which is what I think.
Mhm.
Positive idea, what's being proposed is, it's not 31 feet high. It doesn't sit on the block. Like, it is literally built. It's what
Mhm.
a lot of planning boards before me have been talking about for 30 years.
Mhm.
It's like, this is the type of
Right.
low,
Yes.
not obtrusive.
Unimpactful.
And it doesn't impact the neighbor's view shed,
Mhm.
like the existing house does, because I sit on the porch of Butters, and it looks directly at the existing house.
Mhm.
And I think it would be a little more easy
It's an improvement.
to, this is, and the way the garage is built.
And if I
Were all
could,
your questions?
if I could elaborate a little bit, but if we subdivide, there'd be no restrictions other than the building codes. Goryabs are essentially voluntarily assuming these restrictions, and once the property is subject to a special use permit, any further changes would require a special use permit.
Could you just address the flat roof? Because we do have that section.
The flat roof in the ordinance is basically, that comes under the section, and they're not allowed for houses in excess of 28 feet in height.
Yep.
This is less than 28 feet in
Okay.
height. The purpose is to keep somebody from building a big 28-foot block and
Yes.
have a flat roof. And that's why you have the slope requirement also for houses of that height.
Okay.
This house is, as we've already said, significantly below the 28 feet.
Mhm. Anyone else have any questions? I know I'm supposed to open it to the public, but you guys are involved in.
We have one more witness. We have Mr. Cole.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
And Mr. Hines is here too. He's not.
Yeah. Do you want to come up and just give us some trouble?
He doesn't like it when we make him talk.
Identify Ken and what his type.
My name is Ken Cole, project manager with Atlas Land Surveying.
How long have you worked with the project manager?
I've been project manager since 2002.
And you were hired by Mr. Goria to do the engineering and surveying work necessary and incidental to this project?
Yes,
Didn't you just say you're a project manager and you just said you're not an engineer, right? Like,
I'm not an
that's-
engineer.
Okay.
Atlas Land Surveying is a survey firm.
And you engage surveyors and engineers to do the work and you
That's
supervise
correct.
them?
That's correct.
And you're testifying to their work this evening?
Yes.
Did you prepare both an existing conditions plan, proposed construction site plan, and proposed condition detail plan?
We did.
And did you review a copy of a memorandum from Jim Jeremiah to the planning board dated September 22nd, 2022?
Yes, he was looking for wetlands edge verification and the stormwater control plan, which we updated.
And you prepared both of those and we filed those with the board?
Yes, we did.
You described for the board the stormwater control plan and the sediment control plan and the drainage analysis.
Sure. So the stormwater control plan, what we did was all the impervious surface from the roof line. We engineered dry wells at all of the proposed buildings that Magnus has proposed in accordance with the town and Rhode Island DEM standards. And all of the travel ways entering the property are all pervious surface. We're going to change a little, I think Magnus touched on that we're changing the driveway a little bit going up to the bluff house, but the rest of the driveways are already in place. And, you know, during construction, we've got erosion control methods that we standardly use that are gonna be implemented. And also, I tried my best with this plan to not disturb anything that wasn't already maintained, meaning we're not cutting down any trees. There's a lot of meadow and open space that's annually maintained. I've been at this property for a previous client dating all the way back to 2005. Not much has changed since then.
Do your soils and sediment control plan, your stormwater systems operation and maintenance plan, and your drainage analysis plan all conform to the requirements of the zoning ordinance?
Yes, they do, and they were already all reviewed by the Rhode Island DEM Septic Division as well.
And will all utilities to the site be under?
Yeah, most of the utilities are already in place to the site. And I think we're changing where Magnus has his bluff house proposed. We're redoing the water line. We have to redirect it slightly from where it's already going. And same with the electric line, but the utilities are already in place to both buildings and are underground.
Are the soils and subsoils on the site suitable for the buildings, driveway, parking area, and other site improvements proposed?
Yeah, the general soils in the areas that we're developing, we're very sandy in nature. Water tables range from 6 to 10 feet, suitable by my standards.
And yours are as good as the state of Rhode Island's?
Better.
Does the plan, as presented, protect against any degradation of surface or groundwater quality?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've septic system, both septic systems are already in place. The bluff house was, I think it was approved, the application was around 2002. It was installed and has never seen sewage because that house never got a CO. No one's ever lived in there. The leach field septic tank are in place, ready to be used. We decided that we're gonna use the trench system that was installed in 2002. I think it was installed by Andy Transu. And we decided to get rid of the septic tank because of all the improvements Magnus is showing to the house. We couldn't use the tank in its present location. It was in the way of some of the other items he wanted. So we're gonna put in a new tank and it's gonna need a pump chamber. The house down in the hollow, the guest building, that had as an existing system that Transu also installed. And we're gonna use that the way it exists now.
Did you have to do system suitabilities for those? or-
I did OWTS alteration permits with DEM for both sites and they were approved by the DEM last
All
year.
right. What are the bedroom sizes for those? Do you,
I think it was, I have that here, main house, I think we could fit 4 bedrooms in the main house.
4 and 3? Okay.
Yeah, we're all down there. Let's see, this is the bluff house was for 3 bedrooms. And the Well, they're both for free.
Okay,
Yep. And so that's what they were designed for. The Bluff House was designed in 2002. The house in the Hollow was designed in 2007. They were both three-bedroom applications.
okay.
So that's what I refiled with DEM and showed them the site plans that you guys have. That was the same site plan that the DEM saw and approved.
Okay,
They're pretty similar.
all right.
I have no further questions unless, but we're here to answer any more questions you may have.
Does the board have any more questions or concerns?
One question I had mentioned in my prior memo was about the large house regs, and did the architect review those to make sure this design meets those standards? There was, I mean, I understand it's a modest size, so most of it was, but I had a footprint, just
Yeah, the-
clarifying footprint, yeah.
The interesting thing about the footprint is that, you know, in the general definitions of the zoning code, it includes ground floor decks. But in section 406 for large house, it very specifically exclusive of ground floor decks. And same thing for the special use permit that you would need if one house is bigger. That also very literally says excluding ground floor decks,
So what is the footprint of each house excluding ground floor decks?
like 1447.
The standard is 2,000.
Yeah,
So it's well under.
And yeah,
Okay.
well under it's 3%, 4% anyway.
there was a,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're nowhere.
That fall, it was, reported as 2131, so that's
Yeah.
probably.
And that was,
Yeah.
oh, this year,
Okay,
okay.
For 2035.
What about the gross area of the, can we talk about that?
the gross area of the house is less than 45,000.
I mean, the gross area is below 5,000, yeah, because it's 4997. Tight.
4990.
Oh, I had a question mark.
So that's, yeah. Real close.
I mean, and you know,
And you realize it's over and there's a mistake, you
Yeah.
start over.
but as you know, like there's that patio sort of on the water side, right? Like it's just a deck. So if it could be, and if it for some reason had to be a bit smaller, it could be. But it, you know, we just kept it under 5,000.
but the patio isn't part of that
The patio,
gross area,
no,
right?
but the deck,
But, yeah.
are you,
Yeah, the deck.
Okay,
so you included that in the gross area.
okay.
That's-
That's good.
But
That's
it's
your
under.
advantage.
But you can see like in the combined living areas, right? We're well under because we're 2651 on the Milloff house instead of
Yeah.
3,000. And then in the, you know, overall combined between the two houses, we have to be below 5,000 and we're only at 3496. So we're
Right.
1,500 square foot under, you know, the combined allowable living area. So, you know, the two houses are definitely sized, you know, quite modestly.
Wait, the two dwellings for
If you don't-
the five?
Because you don't have.
Yeah.
Only one.
They just
It's-
did, and they're still on.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Both?
yes.
Oh,
Either
Yeah.
way. I didn't think that sounded right, but okay.
The other thing the board should, last meeting, the right of way. So
I did remember around.
we have documentation has been submitted. There wasn't a butter that had submitted a letter, but they're not present tonight, so I don't know if that's been resolved.
Back to when Gina, Cameron, Cameron,
Yeah.
It was located slightly by, the boundaries. And basically, and relocation. So there's no right of way. Right of way aren't necessarily your issue, but these are.
Mhm.
You sent notices to 500 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
That was an issue.
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
And we also revised sheet to show the 500 would be.
The other, comment I had from the fall was whether or not you could get a variance for. I guess you could prove that you don't need the houses to be 50 feet apart, or less than 50 feet apart, as long as you.
As long as,
Just specify.
we're hoping that you recommend site conditions show that they're better not 50 feet apart, and we still have to prove that to the zoning board nonetheless, but we're asking, I think Magnus has made a pretty good case for it, and I hope he's convinced you. He's convinced me.
Yeah.
You know,
I've been on the property several times myself over the years, as it has transacted, and it certainly makes sense, especially with all the wetlands on the property. You'd
Well,
be
not-
somewhat hard pressed to change it, I think.
I mean, not just the wetlands, but if it's a 50-foot, that requirement was passed, and you have to put another guest house up near the lot where the existing house is. You know,
Or you move that house over.
well,
the
no,
other-
I would, again, the existing house,
Well, you don't have COs on either one.
they don't
right?
have COs, but
No.
that's,
So there's
that's,
really- There isn't.
that's, like, we can't, like, that's where I would put, like, if I was the home.
I mean, that's a lot.
But the secondary dwelling is down, basically in a hollow, it's surrounded by trees, probably not gonna see it.
Right.
From most vantage points.
It's also a very low slung house.
Right. So that, in my eyes, better is a reason to do it. Not have the 50-foot requirement.
The 50-foot requirement was put in maybe 12, 15 years ago. For years, this ordinance existed without it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
this-
What was to
It
prohibit
wasn't
people from turning their
Yeah.
property into a condominium and selling them individually.
Right.
It hoped to prevent that,
Why would
but
you wanna everything together?
Because there was a situation where
Yeah.
an applicant came in
Okay.
under secondary dwelling development, then condoed them,
Yeah.
and
So-
that wasn't the intent, and
while ago.
so it was,
Yeah.
It was a situation where it made sense,
Yeah.
where it may not make sense in different circumstances, which I think is why they left you. You get to look at it and consider it, but you don't have to insist upon it.
yeah, I think this is a good application for the property all the way around.
I agree.
Ready to vote?
So we,
We can vote for the referral to.
sure, I mean, they don't have.
Like the
anything,
house, there,
but,
there's a hot house.
When-
on,
when did
Mission
you-
Beach.
again,
As soon as we're scheduled before the zoning, but we've been continuing, waiting for you guys. So we're gonna be before zoning as soon as you guys render us your advisory opinion and your development plan review decision. Took us a while to get it, no. Right. We continue to get to you, but now,
Okay.
so now we're ready to go to zoning as soon as we're finished here.
okay, I think we're prepared to make a motion, or I'm prepared to make a motion to offer a favorable advisory to the zoning board to approve this application.
So first, you would want to just close
Close
this,
Oh,
this public hearing, and then,
I'll make a
They-
motion to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Now I make a,
Well, I mean, you have two things going. You have development plan review. And generally, I mean, I'd love you to do it tonight, but generally you have somebody write a development plan review decision. And then follow that, accompany that decision with a favorable, an advisory to the zoning board. So I'm thinking you probably aren't going to make your development plan review decision this evening.
I mean, it's up to the board. So do you,
I mean,
and are there any conditions on this that we haven't identified?
no. there are
I mean,
no-
it's up to the, as far as having me write the decision, you can vote, I write the decision, send it to planning board, or do you want, zoning board, or do you want it to see it and read it next
usually
month?
we see it, like. when
Usually we
you're
see
doing
it.
Just did-
For
stay consistent.
Black Ring Spade, you
Yeah.
see it, you just did the same thing for the
Yeah,
medical
and then-
center.
yeah.
So that it's read into the minutes and, your vote on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With a favorable advisory.
Right, so now
Okay.
we can have a conversation, we can deliberate whether or not you're, trying to get like consensus, if everyone's in favor, so, Allison knows which way to write, so,
Okay,
We didn't.
and,
the consensus is that
voting.
everyone's in
we're not
favor.
voting. We didn't have any additional conditions.
No.
They've answered all the questions.
So we're, as a board, requesting that Allison write the opinion,
Advisory.
the favorable advisory to the zoning board.
And approve, and development plan review, both.
And I'm
Yep.
sorry,
And also the development plan review decision.
yes.
and
and the
then vote on it next month.
Yes.
Okay, and the development plan review decision, and we'll vote on it on the April 12th, 2023